Hello everyone and welcome back to the journey to making Switchback. My name is Kristen and my pronouns are she, her.
My name's Melanie, my pronouns are they, them.
And today we're going to be making a video about a topic that we spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about. It is about being a creative and also managing rejection and your mental health and burnout.
Yeah, I think this is a very timely topic for lots of people, I'm sure, not even just filmmakers, but I think it's important to talk about it in filmmaking because the hours are long, there is a lot of stamina required, and so, it's better to kind of face these things and have open dialogue about them so that you can kind of be there and support your teammate well through all kinds of parts of the process of making a film. We're currently in this kind of pre-production part, and so it's going to look different now than it is going to look when we're in production and post, but it is something that we do think a lot about how to make sure that we can kind of manage it as we do the work, as we keep up with the work.
And everyone manages setbacks and stress and conflict. Sometimes it comes up differently.
Yeah.
So how you manage that personally is going to change. And again, like we just mentioned, how you work together as a team, understanding people's strengths and weaknesses in certain areas and dealing with that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think, without sort of beating around the topic too much, I am a pretty emotions forward person in general. I think that's not, any kind of surprise to Kristen. And so that requires a certain kind of response and handling by my primary collaborator so that I feel safe and okay to express that when it's necessary or when I need to process things so that I can move forward with work. And that has been a really, I think, lovely part of our collaboration is that there is a lot of understanding and grace and, support being given. I certainly appreciate it.
And I'm definitely someone that views all these setbacks as logical problems to solve versus emotionally reacting to them. So my kind of go-to is to be okay, well that happens, so how do we then pivot and how do we work on a different thing, which is a great mental strategy to have, but also not always the easiest thing for partners because they are not necessarily ready to shift past the thing quite so quickly as I am, because I just view it as a problem to solve.
Yeah. I think the positive part of that is that if you are a tend towards my tendencies, which is a little bit more emotions front and center and allowing and those will kind of come in and allow you to get a little bit more downtrodden by rejection or by other things, is having the balance of someone who can get you to think past it faster. It's not to deny you the time that you need to do it, but also to just say, okay, but now we need to move forward. And that might actually pull you out of it faster than you would be pulled out on your own. I can certainly say that's been true for me. So I think that you are, sort of making a compromise of give me a little bit of time. And then you will push me a little bit to move forward. And I think that's been very healthy and good for me, because otherwise I might, wallow a little bit more in my sadness about a rejection or about something falling through that we were hoping for, or, whatever. And it is true that we just we need to move forward. But what I want to say about that is that I also think that, my emotional side is part of my strength as a filmmaker, director, and storyteller. So I don't want to destroy or neglect or push down those things because it would cut me off from something that is important to the process, to the creative part of the process. And I think that's a really nice thing that we have figured it out, that okay, I need some of this, but then I need to be kind of pushed or pulled out of it. And that is healthy for our creative partnership.
Well, let's specifically talk about getting rejections, because it is a huge part of being in this industry and being a filmmaker. And it's inevitable. And even the most successful filmmakers encounter a lot of rejections.
Yeah. I think the word inevitable is the right word. It's like if you just accept that, if you just come into this industry being like, that's part of this job. I have to learn to deal with this. And it's true in all kinds of different parts of the industry. I mean, actors are probably on the front lines of this. Every audition is a opportunity for rejection, right? And when you're at the positions that we're at, it's sort of like longer, more drawn out applications for funding that take many months maybe to prepare, and then you get a no, and that can be really devastating because the amount of work and time that you've put in to those applications and what it might mean for the project if you don't get funding or you don't get opportunities. But if you understand this piece of like, it's inevitable, it's part of it, then it can help you to take it a little bit less personally. It's certainly the area in my life where I take rejection the least personally is in this industry, because I just know it's part of it. It's just part of it.
Yeah, and I think everyone understands that the outward appearance of what's posted on social media or talked about is your wins and not all your losses. And on the flip side, internally, you can almost negate your wins because of getting losses or rejections. I found, I don't know why this helps me personally, but I keep a list, a document of everything I apply for and then my acceptance and rejections. And even though it's almost like striving for as many rejections, because that's you putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And so the more things you apply to, the more things you put yourself out there for, the more you're going to get and the more rejection you're going to get. And so I just reviewed my tracker for the whole year to date, and I have 52 rejections and 9 acceptances. And this is film festivals, this is programs, this is labs, this is funding, grants, and this is also jobs in the industry. Mm-hmm. So, that's a pretty good success rate. I think that I tend to not see those 9 acceptances as clearly as I feel those 52 rejections. Yeah. But when you see the percentage, like that's a really good success rate in this industry, is like 1 in 5 I'm going to get, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, before I became a filmmaker, when I was, more in the sort of fine art field of the artistic industries, I used to have a sort of soft rule for myself, which is if I apply for 10 things, I will probably get 1. If I apply for 20 things, I will probably get 2. It was like a kind of 1 in 10 roughly. And every once in a while it would be a little bit more. It would be like 3 out of 20 or whatever, right? But that allowed me to just look at it as playing numbers rather than thinking of it as like, they didn't like me, they didn't like my project, and like really like taking that into myself. It allowed me to just see it as like, well, the more things I apply for, the more things I will get, and so to push towards seeing the applications as the success rather than thinking about only getting the yeses as the success, because the applications are in your control. The yeses and the nos are not. I mean, they're not in your control other than what you put in your application. But even then, like, you don't know why you get rejected. Sometimes it's because something's too similar to you. Sometimes it's because they ran out of money. Sometimes it's politics that you're unaware of. Sometimes it's because somebody else applied the same year as you and they've gotten a no 5 times and the jury knows that. And so they're giving them a yes this time. You don't know what all of that information is. All you have is the sorry to inform you, form letter. But if you can like think about it in this, like, the more things I apply for, the more chances that I have for something to go my way, for something to land for me. And then you can take that like slightly less personally. I have another strategy that I love to use, which is that when I know that the date of notification is approaching, so I'm supposed to hear back from this grant or this whatever by this date, I will often, a few weeks before that, apply for something new, so that I'm not just sitting there waiting for a yes or a no. I have already planted another seed ahead so that I will not, so that if I get a no, I can be like, okay, next thing. You know, it allows me, it helps me to move forward quicker. And that's been just a personal strategy that I've used a lot, both as an artist and now, you know, in the kind of film world as well.
And, you know, coming back to why you don't know why you were not successful in something, I think for me mentally, it also helps that I have been on the other side of programming or on juries to select things. And how many times I've absolutely loved a project that didn't get selected for one reason or another. And to like know that like it isn't so necessarily specifically about the creative, and could be that juries have different opinions, all these things you said too. Like, absolutely. So they could love the project and we could still get rejected.
Yeah. I think a lot about the sort of like what's in your control and what isn't, and the way that external validation is like a double-edged sword, basically, for anybody who's creative. I think for anybody, period, but especially when you're creative. And so, like I said before, you know, I like to think about the applications as the win, as the like, I got that in on time, I was really proud of that application, whatever, because that's something that I have control over, feeling good about. I don't have control over that outcome for all the reasons that we've talked about. And I actually have a little like show and tell for you. We could always put this up on the screen later so you can properly see it. But this is a little note that I wrote to myself many years ago, actually. And I'll just read it to you. I wrote, there has to be a line between the personal gratification of making things, meaning and pride, and external validation, success. One cannot invalidate the other. So there are things that you can take away from being a creative that no one can take from you, no matter how many rejections or no's that you receive. Your joy, your desire to make things, making meaning out of things, finding purpose, expressing your ideas and yourself, connecting with other people, saying things that are important to you. Meeting a deadline even it's just you meeting a deadline for yourself and feeling good about that. And it doesn't matter how many yeses or nos you get, none of those can affect that list of things that you can hang on to. And then on the same token, there's the other side of things, which is all these external things. Validation, success, prizes, winning, money, accolades, good reviews, likes, as well as failures, losses, rejections. And those things are going to happen. Full stop, period. They're going to happen. But they do not have to affect the internal side of things. And I think if you can, I mean, this has been really valuable to me. I come back to this often, which is why I wanted to share it, because I feel like what it does is it allows me to remember that who I'm making my art for. At the end of the day, yes, you want it to be out there and be in front of an audience, and yes, you want to, win the prizes and get the money and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, who am I making it for? If I'm only making it for them, then it's a little bit empty. I think it has to be something that you are first and foremost making for yourself, so that there is this like layer of things that nobody can kind of take away.